Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. We're looking today at Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 19. In the previous verses, the Lord has been reproaching his people, announcing the punishment that he's bringing upon them. The people have not listened to the Lord's word. They've not listened to his prophets. In verse 18, the Lord called other nations actually to testify against them. And the Lord is going to call another witness in this verse today. Let's read the text in Hebrew. Shemei haaretz, hine anoki mevi ra'ah, el ha'am hazeh, pari makshovotam, ki al devrai lo hikshivu, v'torati vayim asa'u va. Well, we start off with Shemei. So this is an imperative. It's an imperative, starting with that hirek here underneath it, but with this E ending on it, it's going to be a 2FS cal imperative from Shema to hear, because the Lord is calling the land. Remember this little change in the vowel here because of the comments with the article at the beginning of it. So the Lord is calling the land itself, or perhaps even the earth. This may be sort of a cosmic calling here. Certainly the land, but maybe even beyond that. And here, well, what are they supposed to hear? Behold, I is our personal pronoun. I am bringing. So here we have a participle. This is a masculine singular participle. This is a hiphil. You can see the may at the very beginning of it, with good sign of a hiphil, or in some cases a pl participle. But the may here is obviously hiphil with the hirek yod from our verb bo, meaning to come, but in the hiphil meaning to bring, to cause to come. So I am bringing it. It's in the process of coming right now. Ra'ah. Now there's a word we've seen this a lot in Jeremiah, even in this chapter. It usually means evil, but it can also have not necessarily a moral sense, but more of a calamity. So we would say a calamity. I am bringing disaster. I am bringing disaster to the people, to this people. The Lord is bringing this upon them. This is the result of their actions. It's actually the pari. There's our word for fruit, and in this case it's a construct form, same form whether it's an absolute or a construct, but here it's in construct. It's the fruit of makshivotam, or makshiva, if you were to put just a hey on the end here, from this root underneath. You see this root here, hashav, which has the idea to think, to reckon, to plan, something like that. And makshiva is the word for thoughts or plans or a device, some sort of project that they're coming up with. Here it's a plural with this ot ending, and then a suffix. This is a 3 MP suffix. So it'd be their thoughts, their devices, their plans, something along that line. A makshav. In modern Hebrew, that's the word for a computer. It's sort of an interesting thing from that same root. So the fruit of their devices, the fruit of their thoughts or their plans. Because, sort of an explanatory key here, upon my words, not, okay, we can just see this. This is plural. The suffix here, first common singular suffix, but attached to a plural noun. So otherwise, if it were my word, it would be divri. Here it's divrai, so it's my words. They have not done something. Well, what haven't they done? Well, we have an u ending. This is a he prefix here. We've seen this word several times already, like up in verse 17. And this is a perfect. It's a third masculine plural, or third common plural, we would say. This is hiphil. Obviously, you can tell that with the he prefix there, and then the hirek yod from our verb kashav with those 3 consonants there, which means to give ear, to pay attention to something. In verse 17, you pay attention to something using the preposition lamet. You pay attention to someone's words. In this verse, we're using the preposition al, to pay attention on, but with the same sense, to give careful attention to my words. They have not paid attention to my words. Then we find this word here. We have a conjunction, vav, and this is Torah, with a pronoun suffix on it. So this is law, God's instruction. With the pronoun suffix, the first common singular, it would be my law or my instruction. But it's sort of hanging right here. And my law and my instruction. And then we find a vav attached to an imperfect consecutive. Because what do we have here? We have an imperfect, and it's a consecutive. And this is going to be a 3MP, and it's a cow from our verb ma'as, which means to reject, to refuse, and it's followed usually with the preposition bait. So they have rejected, or they have refused. What have they refused? It. This is a suffix. This is a 3fs suffix, which seems to be referring back to law, which is feminine. So my law, and they have refused or rejected it. Now, the funny thing here is that this is sort of hanging out here. It's not just a front-loaded direct object, because usually you wouldn't have an imperfect consecutive following it right afterwards. So we kind of call this a casus pendens, using the Latin term, which basically means it's something that's left hanging, and you're going to see the different ways that the translations deal with this. And my law, and they have rejected it. So there's a couple ways we could take that, and I'll show you that in the translations here. But we can see what's going on here. They have really refused to listen to what the Lord has to say. Therefore, the Lord calls the earth itself to pay attention to the fact that he is bringing calamity against them. Well, let's hide our work here, and let's look at a couple of translations. First of all, the Old King James. Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring, it's actually stronger than that, I am bringing evil in the sense of calamity or disaster, but they're keeping that word there. I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts. Upon this people, the fruit of their thoughts. Okay, pretty straightforward. Because they have not hearkened unto my words. That's pretty good for this section right here. Nor to my law. So they've taken this vav here and connected this part with this over here. They with the same verb. They haven't hearkened unto my words and my law, and to my law. It's possible to read it like that. The Hebrew accents, and we're not going to go into those here, but it seemed not to go in that direction. It seems to keep this as a little more independent. But it is possible to read it that way. They haven't hearkened to my words, nor to my law, but rejected it. They have rejected it. The RSV kind of keeps things a little more in line with what we see in the Hebrew. Hear, O earth, behold, I am bringing evil, again I would prefer disaster, upon this people, the fruit of their devices instead of thoughts, but it's the same concept, because they have not given heed to my words, and as for my laws, now see, they've left this as sort of a, like we call it a casus pendens, something left hanging. Well, they've left it hanging here. And as for my law, they have rejected it. So they've followed the Hebrew structure actually a little more closely with the RSV. And one more little difference with the NIV. Hear, you earth, I am bringing disaster. Okay, I like that. On this people, the fruit of their schemes. That's another good translation for makshiva over here. Because they have not listened to my words and have rejected my law. And as for my law, they have rejected it. So they've kind of just combined this hanging word over here and combined it right into the resumptive pronoun over here at the end. They have rejected it, and so they've actually taken this and stuck it right into there, and they have rejected my law. I like the RSV because it sort of makes it hang out there and really lets you observe. And as for my law, my instruction, the good thing that I wanted to teach my people, they've rejected it. They haven't listened to my word. There's no in between. Either we listen to what God's word says and we accept his interpretation of what reality is all about and what our responsibility is before him, as well as our disobedience, or we make up our own devices. And making up our own devices always leads to a catastrophe for God's people. Well, Jeremiah's got more to say, so keep checking back with us as we work through chapter 6 in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.